Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jason Tucker, and this is WPwatercooler's WPblab, episode number 115. Today's topic, we're going to be discussing WordPress agencies' red flag warnings. We got our friend Geno on. We're going to talk about him in just a minute, but we'd like to be rude and introduce ourselves first. Bridget, tell us about yourself.
Hey, my name is Bridget Willard. You can find me at bridgetwillard.com, where I blog about all things social media, how to find work, how to evaluate your costs, and I manage social media for several large WordPress organizations and a few other things, odds and ends. I do little blobbity-blob things. Hit me up. You too can be guru on Twitter.
Awesome. Good to have you on. As always, Bridget, I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter. My website is jasontucker.blog. My Instagram is Jason Tucker. And you can find me. I'm all over the place on the internet, so as Jason Tucker. So feel free to go take a look at that.
Is your Instagram private or?
No, heck no, it's not private. Come on. I work at a church. You can't have private Instagrams. That doesn't work out.
Right.
Sharing stuff and everything. But yeah, so go over to go take a look at that. I've also just recently, and Bridget's gonna be doing this to her website as well. So we're totally gonna have really horrible websites for a little while as we try to figure out how Gutenberg works. My website, jasontucker.blog, recently was switched over to Gutenberg. I'm gonna start playing around with that. I literally had to turn off all the plugins that I have all together just to make sure that Gutenberg would actually work, but we'll see how things go.
So. I was just talking to Jen Miller about that this afternoon because I use Beaver Builder for my pricing tables, and I'm a tiny bit afraid to turn on Gutenberg.
I know. I'm
glad that dollars. I need my website to work.
I'm glad that we said Gutenberg and we didn't talk about Beaver Builder until you mentioned it, because the fact that Geno's in the room and we didn't want to embarrass Geno or anything with talking about any of the competing products that are out there. But since we mentioned Geno and we've been rude enough, Geno, tell us about yourself.
Hey everyone! Thanks first of all, you guys, for having me on here. I'm pretty excited about being on here for the first time. My name is Geno Quiroz. I'm in the Monterey Bay area in Northern California. Woohoo! Hometowns. Nice. And so I have a small freelance agency. There's a couple of us, and we build WordPress websites. We also kind of dabble in some products, WordPress products, and just starting to play with plugins and get familiar with that kind of stuff. I also do tutorials for the for the dark side.
The dark side. Oh wow. Dude, it's like using Drupal over there or anything. Jeez, man.
We love Divi. We love the Divi Nation.
But yeah, I'm an avid Divi user and been a part of that community since the launch of the theme. Was a fan of Elegant Themes before the launch of that theme. And got a pretty handy little resource on Quiroz.co. That's Quiroz.co, where I just provide as many free resources as I can. Layout kits, themes, and tutorials, and CSS kind of stuff, outside of the box kind of stuff. And so I'm just a total WordPress fan now.
Awesome, man! It's so good to have you on. We've been buddies on Facebook for a little while here, and same with Bridget as well. So it's like it just kind of seeing all the stuff that you're into, the different types of things that you're involved with as well outside of normal business hours. There's a bunch of all these little paths crossed, and I was like, all right, we got to have this guy on and talk about it. But the main reason why we're having you on the show is because, again, on Facebook, I was looking on Facebook and I was flying through and I saw this post that you put, and I was like, oh man, this is going to be perfect. This is the type of thing that we've talked about on WPwatercooler probably like 15, 20 episodes ago, where we kind of discussed a little bit of this. But Steve's one of those people that really loves to fire. Like, that's his favorite thing in the world, is to fire clients. And so fire people, fire clients. He's like, yeah, man, it's great. I love it. It makes me feel good. So I was like, all right, well, I wonder if Geno has the same kind of sensibility behind it or anything like that. And we thought, hey, this would be a perfect time to talk about this. And what I like about it is because you have a marketing background. No matter what, if you do anything related to building your own company, doing your own biz dev, doing all that stuff, there's marketing involved in that. And so, you spend enough time and energy to get that client that at some point you go, man, like, I spent a lot of time and energy on this. Is it worth it for me to continue on with this client? Or should I just go like, all right, I'm just going to cut my losses. I'm done. That's it. So let's talk a little bit about that. Where do you begin in that whole process of you're essentially courting this this client, and now you're starting to kind of, you smell it in the air a little bit. Your hairs on your arms start kind of getting up, and you're like, oh geez, what I get myself into?
Yeah, that's the perfect Halloween series kind of theme, right? Right, the monster client. I have to right off the bat share with you guys. There's for the first time I watched Nathan Ingram at WordCamp Sacramento a couple of months ago, and he did a great talk on the taming the client monsters, literally, and it's a perfect theme for Halloween. But yeah, absolutely. I would say that for me, it started off as like first finding out what is a good fit, and so in the early years, I had to find out what that good fit was, what my personality was, who I'm going to work well with. And so I learned the hard way, took a lot of losses, and ended up, losing a lot of money early on. And, I see that as education, learning who I am and my personality and who the personality I enjoy working with is. So I think it takes a couple of years to kind of get to that point. You can get all kinds of advice and tips, and it helps to identify who those bad clients are, but not until you know who you like to work with, I think, before you start to get that instinct.
Right, because bad isn't bad isn't bad isn't bad. It's just more like a personality fit, isn't it?
Totally, yeah. Yeah, I think for some people, like what might be an ideal client for them won't be an ideal client for me. So for example, if you're more of a developer mindset, you enjoy being told, this is how exactly it needs to look. This is exactly what I want. And some folks like to just go in there and build it. Leave me alone. Let me code it out. Let me build it. Boom, here you go. It's on you. And then you might have a design personality or a content personality like you have, Bridget, and the message, the storyline, and you're like, now you're kind of defeating the purpose. You got to trust me with what my strengths are. And in my case, I tend to think I'm a pretty good designer, and so if they don't respect me as a designer, or somebody that has a strategy in mind, or they're gonna, come to me and say, I want a modern looking site. Here's my old site from the 80s. I need to get away from that. And here's a site I really like. It's from the 80s and it looks really great. It looks just like my site. That's not going to be a good fit. What's the point of having me there? So yeah, it's finding that good fit for yourself, first of all.
That's, a lot like dating.
Totally.
Okay, so one of the talks that I really liked at WordCamp LA this year was from Nathan Alote, and he talked about the dating game, and it was just so funny because you're asking, like, what is your workflow? One of my friends, if you don't fill out her form, you're not going to be her client.
Yeah,
like, she doesn't accept phone calls. But that's like, and I'm like, whatever, like everybody's completely different. But, some people expect a lot of touching with their clients, and I don't have time for that crap. Like, you just need to hire me because I know what I'm doing and then leave me alone. Let me do it. Like, ask me a question or two in a month, but it can't be like every day. I don't want to be dating you.
Yeah.
I don't have that kind of time.
Yeah, I have this funny little quirk. Like, so I've learned in my time when I'm scheduling a client, I'm not going to throw a bunch of open hours and days out there. I'll look at my calendar and say, how does Tuesday the 14th at 3:00 work for you? That's my first email. If they respond and say, no, that doesn't work, here, take a look at my auto scheduler and see if there's something on there that works for you. I'm like, no, how does next Wednesday at 4:00 sound then? If they say, no, take a look at my calendar. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to go through your calendar system. We're not a good fit.
Yeah, we're never going to work together, Geno. I was like, I thought we were going to be friends. Because I have all those time zones. I got people in England and Melbourne and Texas and New York. I'm not going to figure out your time zone. I'm available at 8:30 Pacific all this time. You calculate it. Really fun having a call with somebody in India and then going back and forth 100 times.
Yeah.
So Calendly.com is like my favorite thing. But see, clearly that's not going to. So a lot of times it's personality. Sometimes it's just the workflow, right?
Yeah.
The way you work isn't the way I work. So there's differences.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so that's just it. You need that to work within your system. And so that's it. You're finding your personality, your match. And when somebody's like me comes in and is like, well, no, I need this specific time and date, whether it's on your calendar or not, then that's not going to work. Yeah.
I kind of go back to what you were saying earlier regarding being the developer person who just like wants to be fed a bunch of stuff. Like, here's your marching orders. Can you just go crank it out? And I love that. Like, I love having just like, here are the marching orders. It's all figured out. Like, I wish I could go back in time when I first started my own business and just say, you know what, biz dev, nope, I'm not doing any of that stuff. Okay, I need to find one company that really needs a developer to do some stuff, and then I need another company that kind of needs somebody to be like a little bit of a gopher type person, just kind of like fix this, fix that, fix this, fix that, and then I'll be busy nonstop. And it would have been great, but instead I thought I'd just go be my own person and be my own biz dev person and go run around and shake hands, kiss babies, and try to get some business. Which kind of gets me back to because of the fact that I'm not wired that way. I'm not a salesperson at heart, like at all. If I spend a ton of time building that up, I also feel like I'm a bit in debt to myself that I don't want to go and waste that time that I just spent by saying no. Like just saying like, I don't want to take this. I don't want to do this job anymore with you. I'd like to walk away from this. I don't have that ability or capability being able to pull that off. How do you guys approach this? I mean, obviously you're from a totally different type of cloth than I am. So I'm curious.
You want to go first, Bridget, or you want me to go?
You go. Jason always knows what I think about it. There's an open chat. I just go blah 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 blah.
Okay. Well, so I'll be so transparent in that it's not easy for me to say no. I'm kind of a what do you call when you're always a people pleaser, and so it's been hard for me and a challenge, and I've taken on many clients, lost the money, and get to a point where with a couple of them, I said, here's your entire deposit back. You can even keep what I've done for you. I just need to end this relationship because I took too long to say no, and I knew it was going the wrong way. So it's not something I enjoy doing. I always try to give that person the benefit of the doubt. So I'll get a red flag, and this client's like, hey, I got this great idea. I want to create this online banking system. Right? I want it to be like PayPal/Facebook, and it's going to be wonderful. I'm like, okay, red flag, right? It's just me. Let's talk. I need a quote. How much can I do that for? And I'm like, okay, what's your plan? What do you got? What's your game plan? Well, that's why I need to talk to you. What do I need? And I'm like, okay, red flag. This isn't going to work. This guy wants to build Facebook, and he wants to spend $1,200 to do it. Red flag instantly, right? But there's that part of me. It's like, well, let's talk to him. Maybe let's try to get a feel for where he's at. Maybe he does have this and he's just quick and short. And so I'll do a couple of phone calls. And then if I see they don't understand, then I'm like, well, let me try to explain without hurting his feelings or offending that, listen, you're talking about $100,000 project with a team of developers and how to, and so it's been a learning process. It's been hard, but I tend to try to give them the benefit of the doubt and take a couple of calls or at least a couple of emails first before I will say this, that I'm getting better at it, identifying it before getting on a couple phone calls, and it's not something I'm very experienced at. I'm just barely learning to identify them sooner. And it's hard when you have feast or famine mode like we do. I've had I've had famine mode all year. So I was taking on everybody again against my own intuition and instinct. And right now I'm pulling my hair out because now I got good clients. But now I got these little clients I picked up this summer that I'm having a hard time with. 7 fat
cows and 7 lean cows. So for the audience that doesn't know, the thing that runs through all three of us is that we have church ministry experience.
Yep.
And a heritage of helping people.
Yeah,
And
totally.
my husband used to have say to me, Bridget, not everybody wants to be helped.
Yeah.
And I have to wait. And I have to wait to offer help. So when I first started, YouTube could be a guru as a joke. My tagline was giving unsolicited advice since 2011. I would just tell people, like, if anybody's seen my tweets, like, could you stop making websites with the smallest gray font ever that you need? You know,
I went and checked my website after I saw that. Just so you know.
We did an entire show devoted to it because of it.
Right?
Yeah.
And then, like, you need the invisible ink thing. So, like, that's fine if you're a Russian spy, or like, stop using emojis to break up your text. You know, it's like stuff like that I say because I see people do it that I know are like, I try not to call people out, but I try to educate them in a funny way. But also, we keep thinking that we could change the way human behavior is. And that's something that's never going to change. So then it ends up being on us, right? So with people who are helpers, sometimes we have boundary issues. Sometimes that comes from our culture, and sometimes it comes from a tiny little twist on what we think is what's right. So I had a question when I was teaching at WordCamp LAX. What do you say to somebody who asks you for a discount because they're your friend? And I said the same thing that I was taught way back in the early days when I was in church ministry is, if they are your friends, they will pay full price.
Yep.
So how do you deal with, like, and Jason and I talked about this last week, referrals and vetting referrals, and how do you feel about, like, that kind of process? Like, I'm not going to take this, but I'm going to send this person on. How responsible do you feel for that outcome? Or do you do that?
You know, early on for me, I felt responsible for doing that. I felt like I feel like I'm letting the person down, especially if they came to me, you know. And that's
oh my gosh, Geno, you and I are so similar. It's ridiculous. Whoa, it's exactly what I said. I described it as Jason's list, like Angie's list, but for Jason.
Totally.
You don't want to give a bad referral. You also don't want to pass a bad buck either, right?
Yeah, totally. And so, you know, these last couple of clients where I've had to say no to, I mean, I found a great article, because I finally said, man, how do I respond to this client? And so I just started looking up, like, responses, and there was this one, her name is Capella Clincelloe. We'll put a link, I guess, afterwards.
Yep.
I'll share a link with it. And she's an interior designer, but she's got these how to turn down a project like a pro. And you know, it's really cool. It's polite. It's not necessarily like, one of the templates is, here are some referrals. But I appreciate my friends that are doing web design business. And if I think it might be a good fit, then I'll reach out to somebody specifically. And I say, hey, there's this client. Here's my red flag. If you want, I can give them your information. But here's why I'm turning it down. And then if they say, yeah, go for it, then I'll send it. But if they say no thanks, then I just won't send the referral and say, unfortunately, I don't. Since a lot of my clients come to me, are usually familiar with the Divi theme already. And so there is a Facebook group for Divi freelancers where I refer people to, and I say, hey, check out this group. There's tons of people that are eager to work with the Divi theme. Somebody might be able to help you out. And that's kind of been a sort of an easy pass off, because people in that group are just all over anytime somebody posts a job.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It
It's
would
good
be
to have a network.
Yeah, it'd be nice to, like, have a blacklist on the dark web too.
That's why you keep a couple small amounts of Bitcoin over there, just in case, right?
But, like, so just to go back to what I was referring to earlier with the fat cows and the lean cows, so that people aren't completely lost. So there's a Bible story, okay, with the famine, and Joseph had a vision, a dream actually, and there were seven No, the Pharaoh had the vision. That was it.
Pharaoh had a dream.
The Bridget versions of the Bible stories. It was a dream.
Pharaoh had a dream. Joseph was interpreting it. Yes.
Joseph was interpreting the dream, right? That's pretty much how client design goes. Anyway, you have a dream. You're having to interpret it. Anyway, the point was there were 7 fat years and 7 lean years, and he like rat holed away a bunch of hay, and everybody had bread or whatever. Okay, so the point is like, how do you rat hole away money?
Yeah.
So you're ready, because the business is cyclical. Okay, that's the premise of that. You know, beyond the actual miracles and everything that happened with Let My People Go and all of that. But there's like a premise that your business is cyclical, and you're always going to have fat times and lean times. So it's very. I have taken on a client that I would prefer to have not.
Yes.
At the price points that I'm at.
Yes.
But I'm aware that I made that decision intentionally. So
Yes.
I don't resent anybody's, nobody's fault except my own. So with the boundaries, understanding where you are, how much do you counsel people in self-awareness when you're taking on clients? Like, I feel like client interactions is very counseling oriented.
Yes. Yes. So I like what you said about dating. I mean, I totally tell them, let's start with something small. Let me back up because this makes more sense. So I had to take a real hard look at my model. I tried to get into products because I wanted recurring income, but I'm not a great developer. My partner, my buddy Jerry, who works with me, he is. But he's not it's not what he wants to do for a living is build and support products. And so he's got some great stuff. So I had to realize that my strength is design, website design. That's what I do. But how do I get recurring business? You know, the problem with website design is you get a project and it's gone. And if you get some maintenance, that's great. But so you're always hustling for the next job. Mm-hmm. And so I really, this year, I made a real strong push towards getting marketing companies, IT companies, and life coaches, job coaches, people who like the theme that I use, but they need to start with a new website, but they don't want to build it, and they're tired of just using the templates. So, you know, I started pushing American, Western white label services. You know, there's a lot of stuff overseas, but there's not a whole lot here, especially when it's specific to a theme. So, like Beaver Builder, you know, there's a lot of people that love Beaver Builder, and they would just like to find a Beaver Builder developer to build out these products so that they can maintain them for their clients. My SEO clients, they love to maintain, update. They like Divi. They used it, but they're just not designers. They built 3 themes. That's enough. They hire me. So that's been my new focus is pushing that service, and so that they're out there getting new clients and sending me work. So the reason I say that is because now when I have my conversation, I pretty much lay out in that first call. And I used to do canned email responses to every lead. Now I get on the phone and I have to put on the sales hat, which I, believe it or not, I don't like. I'm not a salesperson, but I have to put on the sales hat and I have to kind of sell them on how good we are, but then lay down how we work. And this is how we work. And let's start with a small project. This will be our date. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But let's go out on the first date.
I like that. That's a really good, because I feel like people aren't even self-aware about how they work. I feel like I am a self-aware person. And so it doesn't bother me when I'm cognizant that I'm making a bad choice. I don't feel like anybody duped me, is what I'm saying. I knew it was happening and I was aware, right? Because that's the thing. Like, if you're not aware of what's happening that's wrong or wrong for you, then you can't correct it.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you know if something is wrong? Like, so in roofing, in construction, it's the same. It's super hard to keep getting a client. Maintenance is how you make money. So you're not gonna have maintenance on everybody, but one roof is 10 to 30 years. That's it. And then that's one client in your lifetime, okay? Mm-hmm. Maybe 2. They buy another house. That's it. It's over. So in commercial, you can be there for the maintenance if you can do that. So how you do that in WordPress is having that recurring. And one of the good ways is to partner up with somebody who's doing the marketing. And so I like that you said that. It totally validates a bunch of business models I have told my friends that I'm involved in, because I am a marketing part of some of those business models. They don't want to do that work, but they don't want to turn down the client. So then I become a vendor for them.
Yeah,
and actually because I realized I like that so much better.
Yeah.
I like working for Roy Sivan. He gets a badass price that's not my published prices. So I have white labeled it, so it incentivizes my people who want to be the agencies to hire me, because that is not, I have my prices on the internet, so that I established that
it's like a filter. It's a filter.
Yeah, it's your max threshold.
But for my agencies, I negotiate lower, because I don't have to deal with the client. Right? So for me, that was a self-aware, like, I like doing the work. I'm good at being the person doing the work. I know I'm not the person who wants to I'm never going to hire more employees, right? So it's that self-awareness helps you figure out who you want to partner with. So it also helps you realize, it's kind of funny. This is almost like part 2 to last week, huh, Jason?
Oh yeah, totally.
Because Jason was like, I got somebody who wanted me to do an $800,000 website. I don't have the resources to be going and doing that. So that for him is a no, even though there's nothing wrong with the client. It's just a no for you at that time.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about the timing of no?
Yes, that's a good question, especially when you're in famine mode and you're desperate for clients. I think the timing for no is really when you got work.
It's always easier to find another job when you have a job. This is what I've always told myself. It's like, okay, you have a job right now. You need to find another job. No, you're good. Okay, continue. But when you're like, I can't find another job, but can I quit this job? No, I can't quit this job. I have this job still.
So one of the things I try to do is when I know it's going to be a kind of a rough go with this client, they're sort of indecisive, or I have one, I like Nathan called him the invisible man, the guy that pops in, wants all these time and estimates or whatever, and you go back and forth, put it together, disappears for 3 months, comes back, ready to start, here's the deposit, I already put it in your account, let's get going, disappears for 3 months, right? I have one of those that I picked up, last November. We're still halfway through the site, and he disappears, comes back, and he's paid up his bill. So, I'm like, okay, this is one of those ones where I took him on. I knew I'd take him on. He's not going to get all the time that he demands. He's going to work with my schedule, because now I got other clients that I'm scheduling, and so I just have to kind of educate them that, if they are a problem client because of your delays or your indecisions, I had to schedule other work. So we can look at that the week after next. It's just the way it is because of these delays. And so being a little bit more confident in that, and sort of authoritative and bold, and without being rude, but got to be polite. I found that in most cases they accept the fact that they kind of dropped the ball, and just learning how to say it in a nice way is not easy for me. I'm not great with words. Jerry will tell you that I can be very short on an email, very nice on live on air, but on an email I'm like kind of rude, and some of you guys on social media know that about me already. So.
They made the character count a little bit longer on Twitter now. You can use a couple more words. It's all good.
But yeah, I think that the going back to your question, the when to say no is when times are dry. The way I think of it is, man, it's better than going to Walmart in some cases, and getting that job. And so I'm going to take a couple of sour jobs, but I'm not going to give up on my high-end clients. Don't give up on yourself. Don't doubt. Keep pushing for it, and then when leads start coming in again, raise your prices back up. I took my prices off at the beginning of the year because I hit famine mode. I kept them on and I filtered down at a pretty high rate for several years, and it was really good because clients had that expectation. And then I charged my white label clients about half of that. And so they saw what I charged. They know they're getting half, which is a reasonable developer rate. And it's been a good relationship. They're doing the sales, just sending me the work. And then so as business started picking up, I was able to raise my rates again, not my white label rates. Those stay at my bare minimum that I can afford to charge. But I raised my client direct rates back up because there's a lot more project management, hand-holding time to a price point that I'm comfortable having to hold their hands through a project because I'm getting paid by the hour or whatever it is. And the other thing too is being just upfront with all the hours and just saying, hey, it's on you if you go over these hours, not on me. I don't do fixed pricing anymore. I say, hey, we'll get close to this estimate, stay under, but I'm going to manage this and show you where we're at every week, so you know when we're going over on areas because of you're coming back to me for more changes. So that's been key for me.
Yeah. So when you're in feast mode and you're already to the point where you're about ready to hit that amount that you could probably go back on your website and put that dollar amount back on there, when do you look back at the clients that are the troublesome clients for you and say, okay, no matter how high I raise my rates on these people, they're not leaving? Not to say that you use your rates as a way of pushing out your clients, but like, what do you do then? Like, how do you, going back to Bridget's whole thing, like you need to break up with this person because the relationship just isn't working out for you.
It's not you, it's me. No, really, It's you. It really is you. I really think we should see other people. I mean, it's not Bumble. You can't just unmatch and ghost them, right?
Right.
If you have an online persona, you have to do it well.
You like drive by their house and throw their passwords at their door and then just leave,
Here's all your stuff. Never contact me again. Block, 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 block.
You know what? That's pretty much what you got to do. I've had to do that with a couple of clients where, not in a rude way where like, here, I'm done, we're done. But it gets to the point where I'm getting to a point where I have these other clients, I'm going in this direction. I'm not sure that I'm going to be a great fit for you moving forward, because really I'm not, and I can put it on them, but I'm not a good fit for you because I'm not going to work within those boundaries of getting a text and going on and fixing your website that evening at 5 o'clock. Or expecting to get on a call. Hey, can I call you in 5 minutes? Or even just calling me right off the point without, leaving a voicemail. Hey, I need to talk to you in a few minutes. I got this. I need a quote like within 20 minutes and this kind of thing. Say no. I tell you, in fact, sometimes I kind of get a little short and I say, no, I can't. In fact, I'm busy. How about next Thursday at 4 o'clock? Instead of 20 minutes, how about a week and a half? And you just kind of got to do that sometimes.
I'm breaking up with you on December 31st at 11:59. I love Joseph Dixon. So that's in the chat. But I did that. So I did that. We were talking on the pre-show. I said 2 weeks in, maybe this isn't going to be the best fit. I'm totally fine with that. If you want to find somebody else. This is not the way I work. I did a first date that way. I just said, I went to the bathroom. I texted somebody how to get out of this. They're like, just say goodbye. I'm like, I can't do that. I have a personal brand. Like my personal brand goes to all of my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why there's integrity. You can expect a thing from me, right?
I don't know, but
I'm not just going to flip them the bird or give them 10 fingers and tell them to pick one. You got a 20% chance of getting the right one. Like, that's just not right. So I just said, look, I really enjoyed meeting you. There's no chemistry here. But, hey, and I took my glass. I said, cheers for trying. And he looked at me really funny. He goes, what? I go, we didn't stay home watching Netflix. We tried. We came out. We tried, and that's the victory. And I gave him a cheers, and I said, cheers for trying. And he walked out of there like super with his head because that's the truth. It's hard to do this stuff. It's hard to get clients. It's hard to put yourself out there and feel vulnerable in the same exact way. And I've learned that hard time this year, hard time, both in dating and in clients. There is this unsustainable amount of optimism that's required for both. And I think that if you don't have it, you're going to be so cynical. And if you're cynical, that is going to be the beginning of your own death as an entrepreneur. Because if you don't believe in your own business, how is anybody else going to believe it? I mean, I was on a job interview and I turned it into a sales call. So like, I mean, it didn't work yet, but you know what I'm saying? But,
yeah, no.
But so like, sometimes it's our perspective. So like, I feel like saying no is hard. It's so hard. And saying yes to yourself means saying no a lot of times. And it can be like, hey, maybe we're not a good fit. Or I can't do it for any. One person was trying to haggle me down like for a year and a half ago. I said, I cannot go any lower than that. And then they're like, oh, let's work together, Bridget. And I'm like, that price was 6 months ago. Like that's why I learned to put estimate good for 30 days.
Yes.
I don't get that anymore. You know, and this is stuff we learned in construction. Yes. That I'm like bringing it back because of revival over here.
He was drinking, Bridget. That wasn't nice.
Yeah. I almost got water all over.
But we learned. But it's the same though, you guys. We're building something, and once it's built, you can't take it back.
Yep.
Yeah.
My tweets go on the air. Your website goes live. You can't take it back. The work is done. So for me, one of the ways I've prepare my boundaries is I am prepaid, and prepaid means before the first. And if you don't like it, that's not going to work out, and it's not going to be a check. It's going to be through my FreshBooks. So if you don't like that, it's not going to work out. I mean, you want to bring me cash on my doorstep like a weirdo? That's fine. You can pay me by PayPal, but it's not going to be this long drawn out process, right? Yes. And that means you stop the work. It means you stop. So. One person asked me that, and I said, oh, this is the way I work. You know, they're like, well, I heard you say it. Like, it's still true. Like, there's some people that try to kind of bully you. Yeah. And that's a red flag too, right? I mean,
totally.
There's haggling and there's bullying.
Yeah. And learning to figure out they're going to be a bully as early as you can, learning to those red flags early on. And so like I have a lead coming in, and he was kind of bullying right off the bat. Like, you know, my response was, he's all, here's a site. It's a pizza site. I need it redone. Give me an estimate. And here's a theme on ThemeForest that I kind of like. So I'm like, okay, can you give me a little bit more information? How many pages is going to have? Is there going to be any special features? Is there going to be like a special menu feature, ordering feature? He's all, what do you mean? Take a look at the site. And that was his response. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if this is going to be a good client or not, because he's telling me to go do all the legwork. He's telling me to go research the pages. And so, you know, I'm like, well, we're going to have to get on a call to address this. And I got some questions for you. But yeah, that's a red flag. That's to me,
called discovery. I do that for $250. Okay,
exactly. That's what I need to be doing.
Yes, and I did that.
Always heard for discovery.
I did that for somebody with a Twitter audit, because they said to me, how my Twitter audit's my version of a discovery. So they'll say, well, what would you do? And I go, oh, that's a Twitter audit. And right off the bat, I would do this and this. And they go, oh, I'd like to have that audit. And for this one client, I decided that I would do it for free. So when I sent the estimate, I did what Samantha Zingit told us to do. I gave them the Twitter audit price, $275, the one-time discount, negative $275. You know that you got that. And so even though he's not hiring me yet, he said, oh my gosh, that was so perfect. I've already done some of the things that you told me, and it's working. So that validates that I know what I'm doing. But no, you're not going to get reporting from my old clients. I can't give you my clients' reports because you don't know that Twitter works. There's 10 fingers, pick one. 1% is going to be right. Like, I can't believe what people ask you. Like, oh, it's like saying, well, you're a marketer. Can you show me your clients' books? Oh, here's the financials for my clients for the last 5 years. Are you kidding me? Even if I had it, I can't show that to you. Right? Like,
that's
it's
crazy.
What people ask.
Yeah.
So I said, well, this is what I've done, and you can look at these accounts. I built Give WP. Have you seen very much happen to it in the last year? No offense, but sorry, not sorry. You know, I mean, like that. I built this. These are my clients. They're on my website. Like my work is there. It's out there on the internet. Go Google my name, right? You don't believe me? Then why are you asking me to do your work? Yeah. Right. So some of that is like, okay, I will do this, but we call that discovery. Discovery costs.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like a lot of times we're so used to being helpful that we forget that our helpfulness is a marketable skill that has a dollar sign attached to it.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is about that discovery is that discovery does not guarantee you taking on the job nor them getting you as a client, because they can take that discovery and go, you know what? Thank you for going through all this for me. I really appreciate it. Maybe I don't need a new website. Maybe I don't need to update my theme. Maybe I don't need to change what I'm doing here. Maybe, or it's the other way around. They're like, dude, I just bought this website from somebody else. Can you figure out if everything's okay here? And I poke around in there. I'm like, did you know this thing has a whole bunch of like blah, blah, blah .png files and blah, blah, blah PHP files and blah, 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 like all these like weird files all over. It's like, you know, your website's hacked? And they're like, no, I didn't know my website's hacked. I'm like, your website's hacked. Like, I don't know what to do for you other than to, you know, get that hack removed. But like, you're too far this way and I need you to be more over here so I can actually work on your website. Yeah. And so I've used that discovery thing.
Yeah.
Just straight up doing discovery type work is great. And it's also good where I'll do the discovery and I'll say, hey, by the way, like I can't do this type of work. It's going to require me to hire 10 people to do your website. And I don't have the resources to do it. But, you know, for that, however much I just charge you for that discovery, I'm going to get you I'm going to refer you to somebody else that I know will be able to handle this. And then when I go and hand off the work, I hand them to discovery. That's just me. I hand them the discovery because that person goes like, dude, like you already lined up the batting order and how this is going to work and the whole 9 yards. Wow. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Because hopefully they're going to come back to me and go like, dude, he's going to handle this job a very specific way. And he's going to do that discovery and he's probably going to set these people up the right way. So nice. If you're not doing discovery now, definitely do it.
Did we find a marketable service for Jason Tucker on this episode?
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. Yeah, you know, I used to just say, let me look at it. Let me look at it first. You know, I log in and look at it. And just recently, like maybe a few months ago, we started saying, you know, we're going to need an hour to look at it. So here's our hourly fee. We'll charge you for 1 hour, and we'll go in there and look at it. But it took me a long time to figure out what you guys are describing right now. And even now, what you guys are describing is very eye-opening for me. It's I like what you just said, what both of you just said. That's pretty cool. Smart.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of WordPress plugins that I can install that I can just run it down. I can download a nice little, you know, PHP or nice little PDF file of a report of here's everything that's up on this website. What plugins are installed, what things are set up a certain way, how many users do they have installed, how many posts per user is there, when was the last post, like all of those sorts of things. And then how old are all those plugins? How old is the WordPress installation? What version of PHP are they running? Who's their web host? Like all those things I take into consideration because if the web host is, you know, 35centhosting.com, I go like, no.
Start there.
Yeah.
35 cent hosting. That's hilarious. No, but we did that in construction. So that's why I learned my Twitter audit. Somebody does that for free with the leads, but I go, hey, in construction, we did building surveys, and those were between $800 and $1,500. And by the way, they were our number one source of lead generation. So they showed that we were an expert, and those were then we knew what the work was, what the scope of work, right? So the thing is, and you get paid for the work of estimating. You're not wasting all your time. Yeah. So the thing is that some of it is to prevent your own self being resentful.
Well,
Yeah.
I will say the tricky part of discovery work in general is if you're charging them, say, $150, $200 for the discovery work, and your normal like cost of building a basic website is $1,500, that's gonna be really hard to try to sell to somebody because they're gonna go, wait, you want me to pay like 10% of what the work is to like figure out what's wrong with the site? And I go, well, yeah, for me, it makes perfect sense. If I'm gonna, I want to know if I'm gonna be able to do the work.
Yeah.
Just like you want to know that I'm going to be able to do the work. And I'm going to provide you with a deliverable that you can do whatever the heck you want with it. You can give it back to me and make me do the work, or you can go give it to somebody else and have them do the work. Yeah. Or I'll tell you, hey, this thing's too high or this thing's too low for me. Here, I'm going to have you go out and do this work. Go find somebody else to go do this work and then hand it off to them.
Nice.
So that's a tough. Saying no is you're saying no by providing a resource. Yeah. Whether it's a referral or something that they can take with them and take elsewhere, and then it's fine. You've already got paid for your work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's great. That's a great resource. You mentioned that there's a tool you use. Is that something you developed? One of your own custom plugins?
Yeah, a couple custom little plugin you just throw in there, and it just spits out a nice little box of here's everything that's in there. The PHP INI file and their htaccess file, just all the different like basic files that are there, and then all of the the particulars that are within WordPress that I can kind of pull in and just go like, okay, here's what's here, and pretty simple. Yeah. There's ones that are out there that are like tech support ones, where you can click a button and it'll actually send off an email to somebody that says like, here's all of the information that you need about this site, and then they can go look at it and kind of figure it out. So there's some that are out there. I wrote my own and I just use it, but there's definitely other ones that are out there that you could try out.
Yeah, and Amy is saying you give people a credit on their website build, so you can use that discovery as it goes toward your build. I like that.
I like that too. I like that.
So it's the time for the tool or tip of the week, and I didn't have one. So for now, I know my tool or tip of the week is always my tool or tip of the week. It's Jason Tucker.
That's what I was going to say.
I'm a tool. That's awesome.
Seriously, everybody should know a sysadmin.
Yes.
Because you have different ways of solving problems.
Yes.
Like somebody said, well, what computer do you buy? I go, I don't know. I just asked Jason Tucker. He always tells me what to do. I just do what he says.
I'll also tell you what time of year you should go buy that Apple computer too. Because there's those people that always hit me up like in like June, and I'm like, what are you trying to buy a computer for right now? You gotta wait till the fourth quarter of the year. That's when the computers come out. You want to buy a phone? That's September. We talk about September. That's when you go buy a phone.
That's also when you buy a car.
Right, exactly.
Before the new model years come out, but that's actually really good information, because Joseph Dixon, let's build Jason's list. The thing is, I do the same thing over and 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 over, and so I'm always using the same tools. And I know my favorite tool is Calendly, which is Geno's worst favorite tool. So but the thing is, I feel like collaboration, even this conversation, all of us have learned something from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is why meetups are valuable.
Yes.
I haven't been to mine in 3 months because just my life has just been so not matching. But this is exactly why we have a WordPress community. And this is what's so great about this show, is that it reaches people who for whatever reason can't be at a meetup, or just sitting there doing their work, making their dinner, winding down from the day on the East Coast, or just waking up in Europe. Whatever time you choose to watch this show, what I would like to do is ask our listeners to write in the comments on the YouTube, what's your favorite tool or tip of the week? It can't just be all us. If it's a community thing, then you guys need to start doing some of the work.
Good one.
That's all I'm saying.
Got some homework for everybody.
I'd like to throw in a resource. It's not necessarily a tool, but it's a great resource. Mentioned it earlier. On training.ithinks.com, there's a webinar by Nathan Ingram. I think probably a lot of people in the WordPress community know his name pretty well, but I heard him for the first time last month at WordCamp Sacramento. And the topic is the Terrible Client Protection Plan. It's a 1-hour webinar that's recorded and free. And it really just kind of opened up my eyes to identifying. But the great thing about this was it wasn't just identifying those monster clients. It was how to tame them, how to set boundaries, what we need to do. Like, for example, one great takeaway was the weekly email. Tell them what you did, where you're at, and what you're going to do next week every single Friday.
Ooh, I like that.
I love that. Something simple like that. Like, I need to do that.
That is a tip.
That is.
That is.
Yeah, the weekly 3-point email. What you did this week, where you're at, what you're doing next week. That'll keep them off your back, and that'll keep them from questioning what's going on when they don't hear from you for 2 weeks. So check this out. I'll put I don't know if I can put a link in the YouTube thing here.
I put one of them in there, but I'll make sure to put the other ones in the show notes once we put them all together later on today.
Okay, cool. So yeah, check that out. It's the boundaries are great. It talks about documentation, how to set boundaries, and it's really helping me. I'm putting it to action now, and it's been helping me a lot.
Sweet.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I love that Friday email. It's like probably the only email that won't go somewhere to die.
Yeah, I'm really trying to implement that now on a weekly basis. It takes discipline, but I'm getting better. Especially when you didn't do anything all week. You got to be honest and say, I didn't do anything all week. But even that, I think, is a good tip.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Here's my quick tool tip of the week. So I listen to podcasts, and I listen to like the same 4 or 5 podcasts every single week. And some of these podcasts are pretty long, and some of them are really short. Obviously, I listen to podcasts. I create podcasts, so you gotta listen to some that are out there as well. So, the one in particular that I listen to, and I've been listening to this guy for many years, and it's Leo Laporte. And
I love Leo Laporte.
Leo Laporte is awesome. So
That's why I'm on WordPress.
So Leo does a show called Security Now with Steve Gibson.
Yes.
And what I love about Security Now, if you've ever listened to it, is it scares the living daylights out of you. It's like, why do I have my computer on right now? My computer should be unplugged under the bed with aluminum foil around it. Like, there has to be like, you got to just like, you're super scared about stuff. Well, I was listening to this particular episode, and it hit me hard. So the reason why is that this particular episode, which is the most recent one, which is episode number 686, where they talk about a whole bunch of things, but one in particular, they talked about the jQuery file upload. jQuery file upload is pretty popular with people that are using a way of being able to drag and drop files and upload them to your website. And so it has a vulnerability that's happening right now within it. And it's been around for quite a while, this vulnerability. And now people are starting to really talk about it, and they're starting to put a bunch of commits and everything into GitHub. And so if you go over and take a look at this particular episode 686, almost every week I listen to it and I go, oh man, my website needs to be updated. Oh man, like Drupal's totally screwed up this week. Like, they're talking about all this crazy Drupal stuff that was going on. And then it's just good. It's like a sanity check. You just kind of listen to it and go like, dang, the whole rest of the world's all screwed up. It's like everything is on fire right now, and I'm gonna go to work on Monday and go, oh, that's great. Now I got to go do Patch Tuesday, so I'm gonna go update all my Windows computers at the office. So yeah, Patch Tuesday. So make sure you go take a look at that. I will tell you right now is that their website, like the main website over on it's twit.tv/shows/security-now. That website doesn't have very extensive show notes at all. But Steve Gibson, who's the other guy that's on the show, he actually has one of his workers actually does very good show notes. And they're the type of show notes that instead of like putting them on their website for whatever reason, he makes them as a PDF. So you can actually dig through, like, I think this thing has like 10 pages of show notes with like graphics and everything. It's insane. So feel free to go take a look at that. And I always skim through it and just kind of go like, oh, I got to listen to the show. This one's going to be crazy. And then I'll sit there and listen to it. So yeah, that would be my tool tip of the week.
Nice.
Awesome. That was a great show. Hey, Geno, tell us one more time how to pronounce your last name and how people can find you.
I tell people to pronounce it this way. Key is in a house key. Dos is in the number 2 in Spanish. And if you say it fast enough, it sounds like you're trilling the R. Quiroz.
Oh, Quiroz.
Quiroz. Yeah, so I can't even trill my R's, but Quiroz. Sounds like it, right? So you can find me on MontereyPremier.com. I got to start twisting in my chair. I do that when I get nervous. MontereyPremier.com is our agency. Quiroz.co is my personal site where I give a lot of Divi resources, tips, layout kits, and tutorials. You can find me on Twitter at GENOQ and at Monterey Premier, and on Instagram at Geno_Quiroz and at Monterey Premier.
Awesome. It was good to have you on today. It was good to kind of, I haven't actually got to hear you speak about the type of work that you do and the things that you're doing, but I've been following you on all the social medias for quite a while now, and it was really cool to kind of have you on the show and everything to kind of get this figured out. And if you come up with any topics you'd love to come back and talk with us, we would love to have you come back. You were a great, not just interview, but also just a great person to kind of listen to and hear about all the cool things.
Yeah, I know. Okay, I'm blushing. Thank you guys so much.
I'm waiting for you to start moving in your chair, but it hasn't happened yet, so I'm just gonna keep talking.
No, just so you guys know, I've looked up to you guys for a while. When I first got introduced to the greater WordPress community outside of the Divi community, you were some of the first two people that sort of showed up in my feeds. Met at my first WordCamp was in Orange County a couple of years ago.
That was your first?
That was
the one where they all showed up together, and it was like
that was so cool.
Yeah, that was my first, and you guys, I had already been following you. We talked about WPwatercooler. David Blackman introduced me to it, and so I kind of known about you guys. And then I saw you guys doing interviews, and I'm like, these guys are like movie stars in the WordPress community. That's how I felt. And I appreciate being on here. That's why I was nervous, as I told you guys earlier, because I do look up to you guys. You guys are doing a great job in the community, and I appreciate it.
Just people just like you. You guys just have better beards than I do.
To be perfectly honest with you, Geno, I don't like going to WordCamps. Like, I love going to a WordCamp and like hanging out and talking with people, but I am not the kind of person that just sits there and listens to a talk. Like, it has to be a pretty compelling talk for me to go like, I'm going to sit down and listen to it. So I try to find ways of doing other things. And at my own home camp, I can do whatever I want, because I just go like, I want to volunteer. And then I volunteer and I show up with all my camera equipment. And I just
that was pretty cool.
So if you don't like being in a classroom like me, that's the way to do it. Start interviewing people, put it on the internet, and don't make any money off of it, because I don't. So,
but we could have, if you had clicked WPwatercooler.com/sponsor, you could have had your business here for fast, $40 PayPal cash. So you're missing your opportunity to elevate your brand awareness. And we're going to let Jason close the show.
Yep, that's it. I want to say thank you very much for all of you fine folks in the chat hanging out with us. I really appreciate it. It was really cool to, have some folks talking with us, and it's pretty fun to sit here and talk about all the fun things that are going on in the WordPress community. So go over to our website at WPwatercooler.com/subscribe. That's where you can learn how to subscribe to us on YouTube, on all the various podcast networks that are out there. And also, like Bridget said, she gave you homework. You got to go onto the website. You got to go over onto YouTube and leave a comment. Leave a comment down below and say, hey, here's what's going on. Here's my tool or tip of the week. Here's the things that I'm interested in. And maybe we might even mention your tool or tip of the week, because there's only a finite things that are in the world, and we'll probably pick one of yours. So why not?
It'll be more fun.
That'll be more fun. Exactly. You'll get to hear all the cool things we did with the thing that you're using out in the cyberspaces. So I'll talk to y'all later. You have a good one. Bye-bye.
Cheers.